It's January 25th, 2021. This is Roqe. He is an Iranian kickboxing champion and an entrepreneur who made headlines around the world last year when being charged and sentenced to 16 years in prison in Iran for some Instagram posts, including a simple one of a kiss with his wife. He's now in exile in Turkey and dealing with the complex story of being the son of a member of the clergy who's gotten on the wrong side of the regime. Picasso Moyin joins us for a feature interview about being a controversial athlete and family man, speaking out, and becoming a social media influencer. Plus, Mona from Melbourne with the Persian proverb of the week, and the team assembles to address your letters. This is Conversations from, to, and about the Iranian diaspora. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. This is Roqe. Hi there, welcome to episode number 79 of Roqe, coming to you from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Hope you're keeping well wherever you are tuning in from around the world. امیدوار هستم که خوب باشین دوستان عزیز. We are on an ongoing mission to build this new audio-visual encyclopedia of Iranian diaspora identity, coming to you on SoundCloud, on Instagram, on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and Telegram. And Castbox, by the way, right?
Yes.
We didn't even know this. We're on something called Castbox, which is a podcast platform.
Yes, some of my friend in Tehran actually, she just told me that it's kind of a trendy app for, in Tehran especially, people listen to podcasts through Castbox. Yeah.
I would like to make it seem like we did that intentionally. We're on Castbox, but so I became a subscriber so I can listen to Roqe there.
Yeah.
But it's got a few hundred, each episode has a few hundred listens and stuff. I'm surprised. Anyway, there's something called Castbox. If you're not on it already and you want yourself a new podcast platform, you can also find Roqe there. Check out our website, roqemedia.com, where we have put up the most recent Roqe Reads opinion piece inspired by sculptor Parviz Tanavoli's appearance on our show, roqemedia.com. You can also find our latest Roqe moment there, and it is from German-Iranian journalist Nathalie Amiri discussing the Iranian government's duplicity when it comes to reporting COVID cases and the depth of the crisis over the last year. I think some would argue that duplicity has not been limited to the Iranian regime, looking at how some countries have dealt with the pandemic as well. That voice you heard a moment ago is Shaya John. Hi, Shaya.
Hi, Azizam.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was good, was productive, and I'm happy.
What did you get done?
Another song with Milad.
Wow. You're pumping out the songs.
Yes.
You don't share them with me. I haven't heard them.
After this episode, I will play.
Okay, I look forward to it.
How was your weekend? I've heard about Larry King, and I was...
thanks for mentioning that, actually. This global icon, Larry King, a broadcaster, and a lot of people know him or remember him from Larry King Live, his CNN show, where he was on every night. But, he actually started in radio. And for those of us who were in radio, I remember him. I was a kid at the time, but he was on overnight. He would do this radio gig in the wee hours of the night across it was a national show in the US, and you could hear it here too in Canada. I think it was like from midnight till 4 a.m. or something, and he would take calls, and even at 1 a.m. he would have major stars on. He was sort of the only game in town when it came to that overnight radio like that. So you may know this, but I had the chance to interview him a few times and get to know him a little bit. He was very, very kind to me, and he once sent me a note saying that he thought, I was a good interviewer and it meant a lot to me. He was kind of playing this mentoring role, on my Instagram. I put a link to one of the interviews I'd done with him on TV. But, he and I have very different styles. I'm in the kind of the school of, I don't know, Barbara Walters or David Frost. You do as much preparation as you possibly can. Larry King's credo, I mean, one of the things he lived by was don't do a lot of preparation. Not that you shouldn't be prepared, and not that he wasn't great at what he did, but he felt like for him to be natural in an interview, he didn't want to know too much about the person. He wanted to just kind of come and ask the natural questions that would come to him. It's a very different style from what I would do or even prescribe to others, but anyway, did you know of Larry King when you were in Iran? I mean, you only came a couple of years ago.
No, I know of him, but I was going to mention that in Iran, he became famous after he did an interview with Ahmadinejad.
Of course, that's right.
After that, all people knows of Larry King, but actually I know of him before that.
Yeah. Well, there's all kinds of reasons. He sort of interviewed everybody over the, he was this staple of, before CNN was a major cable network that it is now internationally. Larry King was kind of the face of CNN. I mean, over the years, he was one of the main people that you identified with CNN for many years,
Yes.
I remember interviewing him after he left CNN, and I'm not sure that it was his choice to leave. And, he'd gotten older, and he continued to do different kinds of broadcasting up until recently. I mean, he was, doing podcasts, and he was on social media, and 87 years old. Anyway, rest in peace, Larry King. Yeah. He was very funny. I mean, he thought he was funny. He really loved the idea of being a comedian. He actually wanted to do stand-up comedy. But he really was a fabulous raconteur, which is, you know what that means, Shia?
No.
Raconteur is a storyteller. He was a beautiful storyteller. He would tell these stories, sometimes with a funny punchline, and that's why he was a joy to interview as well. So there
rest
you go.
In peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. So today, Picasso Moyin will be joining us in a few minutes from Istanbul, Turkey. This is a very interesting dude. He is now in exile with his family, with his wife and kids, after being sentenced to 16 years in prison in Iran, along with his wife, for quote-unquote moral corruption, for posting some relatively innocuous, by Western standards, innocuous things on Instagram. He's a major social media influencer and a former kickboxing champion, has quite an interesting and for some folks controversial lineage as well. So we'll get to him. Also, Mona from Melbourne, the Persian priestess of proverbs, will be joining us later in the show for our Persian proverb of the week. Captain Reza will be with us as well. And the fabulous Keon and the whole Roqe On Air team will assemble in about 90 minutes for the letters of the week, which we have a bunch of based on the last episode. Some people weren't happy with our choice of guests. We will get to some of those letters. Speaking of which, in the coming days on Roqe, prolific Tehran-based musician Reza Tajbakhsh. You know what's amazing about him? I mean, I know you know him, right? He's a producer. He produces a lot of stuff.
Yes, he's a great, fabulous pianist.
But he's not just a piano player.
No,
the guy plays everything. He plays the bass, he plays the drums, and now he's starting to sing on some tracks. Reza Tajbakhsh, if you don't know about him already, if you live in Iran, you might know him. If you don't live in Iran, you might not know of him already. Happy to be introducing him. I think we've agreed to do the interview in English, which will make it, I'd have to ask Reza, but I think it's his first English interview ever, a long-form English interview. So,
I think so, yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Also, acclaimed novelist Shahriyar Mandanipur, who lives in the States now. He is this prolific writer who... not unlike a lot of writers in Iran, was banned for a while, censored for a while, finally left Iran in 2006, but has continued to write some beautiful works. I've just finished his latest novel in anticipation of interviewing him. Shahriyar Mandanipur, and broadcaster Maral Mohammadi coming up as well on the show in the coming days. Okay, let's get to our feature guest today. My feature guest is an Iranian kickboxing champion, an entrepreneur, and a major social media influencer. He was born Ahmad Moyin Shirazi in Najaf, Iraq, but he is better known now as Picasso Moyin. Picasso and his family moved back to Iran after the revolution of 1979 when he was only a year old. By the age of 13, he was immersed in the world of martial arts. In his teenage years, Picasso moved to Pakistan and then to Sri Lanka. He then returned to Iran in 1998 before leaving again for Germany, where he would win a number of different titles in kickboxing. In recent years, Picasso and his wife Shabnam had been living in Iran and had become an influencer couple with over 500,000 followers in Iran. On Instagram, one of the few Western social media networks that are not blocked in Iran, the couple showed themselves in their everyday life with their children, doing sports, or in intimate moments like sharing a simple kiss. Well, for this, quite famously last year, they were charged, they were convicted, and they were sentenced to a total of 16 years in prison by the Revolutionary Court in Iran for posting so-called propaganda against the regime and quote-unquote obscene and vulgar content, and for spreading alleged moral corruption through their popular Instagram accounts. This led to a dramatic escape from Iran while on bail and headlines around the world in recent months. Picasso and his wife are currently in self-exile in Turkey with their 2 children, and right now, Picasso Moyin joins me from Istanbul, Turkey. Hello, sir.
Hello, Jian. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you guys, really, and very excited for the rest of the show.
Thank you so much for doing this, Picasso. I mean, you've had quite a year over the last 12 months, and I want to get to your whole story of how you were sentenced by the Islamic Republic, how you ended up being able to get out, and all that you've learned in the process. Let me ask first, in general, I mean, this has been a very turbulent time for your family. You're suddenly in exile. To judge from your Instagram account and postings, you are taking it in stride. There's sweet pictures of you and your wife and family. And very recently, you surprised Shabnam with her mom visiting, which was a lovely post. Is it fair to say you are coping okay for now?
Well, it is actually. You see, actually being abroad, being like out of Iran for me was something which I'm quite used to. I left country as I was 16 years old, and to be honest with you, I wasn't really the material which was meant to live in Iran. I mean, especially the kind of family that I grew up in, and I had difficulties in Iran, like trying to connecting with the society to begin with. So when I left Iran, I left in the hope that I don't come back anytime soon. But when I came back and I met my wife and I decided to stay in Iran, and then we set up our businesses and life and had children and stuff. So it was different. Like I was really looking forward to be in Iran, although we had plans to go back to Germany since I'm double nationality, I'm Iranian German. But we always wanted to keep in touch with Iran, keep our ties, always wanted to come back, see the families, keep our businesses going on. And this time when we left, it was different. Like, I don't know, this term, this particular term, qurbat, is what we are feeling right now. Wow. Knowing that we cannot go back, we can't see our friends anymore, we miss our house or street or whatever we built there, whatever we left there. And that isn't really that pleasant. But let's say we're a family, we're happy, and I've learned through the time to be happy and grateful for whatever I have, and this is what we're doing right now. We're okay.
There is so much there that you've said that I want to deconstruct, and I want to get into the story. I mean, let me just ask this first. After all you've been through in fleeing Iran, you're still prolific in social media. I mean, do you have any trepidation about posting on the internet, especially when it comes to your private lives, when it comes to showing Shabnam's mom coming or your kids, etc.?
No, actually, if you go through my page, we're doing exactly what we were doing back home in Iran, and nothing really has changed except I used to criticize the government more as I was in Iran, but now that I'm out and I know that they are a little bit like, they got problem with me, and I being so close to Iran, I rather keep my nose out of their business. I mean, I still criticize the government sometimes from time to time, but I just only do that when I really, really can't take it anymore. And our personal life, we used to like show a prospect of, a tiny section of our lives.
Right.
And this is what we are still doing. We're sharing good moments with people, and I don't know, we're just communicating. And I believe that we are paying back to the society. I mean, to just, I don't know, you see, Iranians are through so much. They've been like through so much.
Yes.
And we always thought like they deserve to have a window where they could, I don't know, feel a little bit like, feel good when they see our children, us being together or having fun or pretending to be happy. Of course, we're not always happy, but just letting people in our home was a thing that we realized it helped many people, and it did actually. So we've been like doing the same thing as we came back here. Of course, in the last year before we leave Iran, as we were picked up by the Vezarat Telaat and all those people, we were not actually ourselves. Like, we were posting things that we were only allowed to. We were trying to behave the way they wanted us to. Although, despite all the things that we did and we did not, they still took us to the court. So we left the country and we said, like, okay, back to the normal life. And this is our normal life, the routine, what we're doing.
Okay, let me get to all of that, because there's a lot in this story that is very interesting and quite daunting. First of all, take us back, because you have quite an extraordinary story of coming from the lineage you do, becoming a champion in martial arts, then becoming an enemy of the Revolutionary Court for your online presence. You were born in Najaf, went back to Iran as a little kid with your family. So Najaf is one of Shia Islam's foremost holy cities. Your father was or is a member of the clergy. What was your childhood like? Tell me what little Picasso was like.
Okay. You're taking me back in time, man. Well, actually, I was born in a religious family, religious but modern. Of course, I was born in Najaf, not only because my father was studying theology in Najaf, it was because my father was a fugitive, a political fugitive, because in the period of Shah.
Right.
I was born there, and I was different from the very, very young age. I can remember that a friend of ours brought me a shirt as a gift. I was 4 years old, and the shirt was American Navy's uniform, I suppose. This is what I was told.
Right.
So it has like these tiny eagles and American flags on it. And I was wearing it, and then a relative of ours, or a guest of ours in our home, looked at it and said to my mother that, tear that American flag off his shirt, and that eagle and whatever, these are like Americans, imperialism, evil, whatever. And my mom said like, yeah, but that's all right, that's just a kid. And you see, those days, at the beginning of the revolution, you were either this way or that way. Like, if you wouldn't do that, they would just run out and start talking behind your back that, these people are Taghuti and they're, I don't know. So my mom took off that flag, and I think that was a turning moment for me. I was only 4 years old.
Wow.
But I really thought like, this is not okay, because I love this shirt and I love that flag. It looked good. Since I remember, I always loved to wear bow ties or ties and things like that. In my family was a little bit odd, because my dad was a Rouhani, was an Akhund, and we were not raised like that. And my dad used to say like, he's different, like this is in his blood.
You put it interestingly a few moments ago. You said, I am not the material meant to live in Iran. And so you knew that from a young age, that you're just out of step with at least the contemporary version of that country.
Oh yeah. You see, as son of my father, I had to behave in a manner and a way which I could not. Not that I didn't want to, I could not. At the time, I was the black sheep, and I had really, really a very hard time. Friends of my father used to talk bad about me. They wouldn't let their children to play with me or interact with me. I was a bad influence, and I was a bad reputation for my father. my father was a great guy. You see, like he had his beliefs and he had his things, and he still didn't really push me that hard, but he had to control me. So when it came out that I could leave country for further studies, everybody was happy. Everybody was excited. My parents, they said like, oh, okay, we'll like get rid of him.
It's interesting to hear you talk about your dad. I mean, a significant member of the Iranian clergy, Ahund, as you say, Mullah. I mean, this, you obviously are aware, this makes you controversial for some people. Even telling a couple of people that you're going to be coming on our show, one of them said, oh, he's a son of Ahund, as if you could never somehow separate yourself from that. Or, how do you react to people finding this either controversial or somehow therefore seeing you as an insider of some kind?
Well, I am used to that. 30 years ago, people would see me as a traitor, as an outsider, somebody who is spoiled, who is, who is facet, who is westernized, and has crazy ideas, dangerous ideas. And 30 years later, people think about me the other way around. I don't really belong to any group right here. I mean, I can't really connect with nobody. And actually, I stopped caring about that because I thought like you can't really make everybody happy. So I decided to be what I am. I mean, I am who I am how I am, and people talk about me. As we came out, there was this reporter from VOA who wrote an article about us, and the guy didn't know a thing about me. Nothing. I mean, nothing which is written in that article is correct. I don't know where he was getting his information from, but
like what? What was he saying?
That he's corrupted. He has had hundreds of millions of dollars in his pocket from this organization and the other organization, which I was like, oh, where do they get these information from? I mean, what is he even talking about? And I mean, I built everything that I have on my own because you see, in Iran, many people are unhappy and many people have economical crisis.
Sure.
And they can't really realize that maybe they are unhappy because of other reasons and not financials. So if you look happy, it means you're rich. You see, like Iranians at the moment, many people in Iran unfortunately think that happiness means having money. So if you're happy, you're loaded. If you're not, then I don't know.
So are you rich?
Actually, no. Not at all. I mean, I'm doing okay, but I'm not rich. No, not at all. No. You see,
but you seem happy, so I figured you were.
I'm always happy. You see, I used to literally, Jian, literally, I slept under the bridge in Germany, and I still was happy. You see, I sacrificed so much for this sport. You see, I was fighting. I had a professional contract from 2000 till 2003. I used to fight with German flag, and as I made a name for myself, I turned to my promoter and I said, like, from now on, I will fight for Iran. And the contract wouldn't allow that. So I said, like, I want you to do something which it works out. And they came up with an idea, like, if I give up some of the terms in my contract, if I ask for less money, practically I can fight for Iran. And I accept it. So I lost, financially, I've lost so much for representing Iran, although in my active years of fighting, nobody in Iran knew me. Absolutely
let me get to the fighting years, but because we'll come back to your lineage but I want to ask you about being an athlete, because by your early teens you start getting into martial arts. Were you always an athletic kid, and what drew you in? Did you have pictures of Bruce Lee on your wall? Like, what was your how did you get into martial arts?
Actually, I was a little bit chubby, not really that athletic. One summer, I got my hands on a movie from Jackie Chan, and I watched that movie 150 times during that summer. From that moment, I decided to be a martial arts champion. of course, I was supposed to study because in our family, everybody had to study, everybody had to become a doctor or muhandis.
Sure.
So I did that, but this was not what I wanted to do. So when I was free and I had the chance, I decided to leave that all behind and focus on my sport career, which I did.
By the way, I love people, and I love human beings. I mean, this and stories of human beings. It's why I love this job, because I like talking to people about their lives, and I love the way the world operates sometimes, especially in our era. That a kid in Iran from a religious family with a father who's an ahund finds inspiration in a Chinese martial arts star who makes cheesy movies in the 1980s and 90s, I really enjoy that idea. Nevertheless, as a teenager, you pack up and go to Pakistan and then Sri Lanka. Why did you go to those countries?
Okay. You see, at the 90s in Iran, or 70s of Persian calendar, they were like pretty dark ages, because Ayatollah Khamenei was recently became the leader, and he came up with this new idea that we need enemies in order to survive, because the war was over. So they thought, like, in order to keep people on leash, we need to have an enemy, like to scare people off. I don't know why. So he came up with the enemy, which was not Iraq. It was not like necessarily America. It was West. And he called this Shabikhune Farhangi, which it was, I don't know, like cultural invasion. And he asked the people to fight this Shabikhune Farhangi. So there were like Basij, Komite, Niru Intizami, and they made life for everybody to hell, especially younger generations. So I can remember we used to go every weekend to mount climbing, to Kolakchal, and there were times when we used to get arrested 3 times within 6 or 4 hours of hiking. You see, this bunch of kids from Basij used to arrest us for wearing jeans, and we used to like beg, "Oh, come on, guys, let's go. It's just a simple jeans, come on." And then they would leave us go after half an hour, like begging, and then, I don't know, 200 meters ahead, another group used to arrest us. And I wanted to get out so bad, and my parents thought, like, okay, I mean, he is, I don't know, ruining the reputation of the family. So what to do? So when my sister was studying in Pakistan, and my sister said, like, why don't you send him there? I mean, here to me. And they said, oh. So when they told me about it, and I said, oh yeah, why not? And I went to Pakistan. I wanted to start studying dentistry, but I had a brother. He is a quadriplegic. It happened during the war. He was fighting for Iran, and he can't walk since then. They said that maybe acupuncture can cure him. And there was an acupuncture college close to the dental college, which I was admitted to. So I went there, got admitted there, and I was really good at studying, by the way. So I got scholarship from Colombo University. So then I went to Sri Lanka and finished my study there.
You're only 17, back. Right?
I was 16. I was 16.
So when you returned to Iran at 20 years old in 1998, is it with the idea of being an acupuncturist?
That was the idea. Well, actually, that was everybody was expecting me to be. And I was too young. I didn't want it to be a therapist. I practiced about 6 months. And then I left Iran. I went to Germany.
Yes, you leave again within a couple of years. I mean, this is quite a nomadic existence, for a 20-year-old. Although now that you've laid it out from the top of this interview, that you had this desire to get out. It's fair to say you really didn't want to stay in Iran. So you leave to Germany, and this is kind of the second half of your life in terms of the life so far. That is, you're not that old. Yeah. But how would you characterize your years in Germany, Picasso?
Well, I didn't go to Germany to stay there. I found a tournament where I could fight. and this tournament was in France. The tournament was on Saturday, and I got my visa on Sunday, the day after the tournament. So I still went to Nice, to France. We said, like, okay, now we're in France, what to do? We went to Germany, where I had a couple of relatives, my grandma and my uncles, and an aunt of mine used to live in Germany. They're also in exile. They left Iran for political reasons and stuff. So I said, like, okay, what to do? I presented myself to an academy, Eskera Academy of Martial Arts. And they were very impressed with my skills, although they were more a boxing promotion, but they decided to make a contract and keep me there.
Hang on a second. Just to recap, you're this kid who is out of step as a kid. Your parents are kind of ashamed of you, or kind of, well, what are we going to do with this kid? He's running around.
They were not really ashamed of.
Not ashamed, but they're worried.
They were uncomfortable.
You go to Pakistan, Sri Lanka. You finally seem to get it together to be an acupuncturist, and then you decide you want to go to Europe as a kickboxer. How did that go over with the Ahun father and the concerned mother?
My father loves me very much. By the way, I love him very much, and he still says that I know that the God has given powers to your hand to cure people, but you use it in the wrong way. You just, I don't know, you destruct people. You just, beat up people with those hands, and they are not really happy. They were not really happy, but at the same time, they respected my decision. So I went there and I told him that I'm not coming back for a while. I'm staying. And I stayed there for a few years. I didn't go back to Iran for maybe 4 years.
You win some championships?
I had won a European title, 3 German titles, and 2 world titles. One was really, 3 world titles, but the third one was really not very important on big organizations, so that doesn't count. I won the WKA, which at those days, it was the largest or biggest pro kickboxing organization in the world, and I defended my title till 2009.
Yes.
And then I quit.
So what did this in this period in Germany? I'm very curious what you think others in Germany made of you.
Well, they loved me. I was one of the best paid fighters in Europe, I would say, and it was because I used to sell tickets, because people loved me. Because I don't know, to some extent, I would say I looked maybe good for a kickboxer. I was very respectful because I came from karate background. So there was always, in the pre-fight interviews, maybe the opponent used to trash talk or whatever. I was always respectful, always to the point, always very fair. And I used to do lots of kicks, which in kickboxing, they really don't use the kicks very much. So it was, it was cool to watch somebody doing kakado or back kicks, flip kicks and stuff. People like that.
So if things are going so well in Germany and you're making money and the crowds like you and the federations like you, why in 2009 do you lose your inspiration and want to return to Iran to...
Actually, I was making more money than others. But I was not really making good money, I would say.
I see.
I was making more money, but the amount of damage. Jian, right now, which I'm talking to you, I just came back from doctor's office to operate my knee because of 29 years of torturing my body. And you see, that amount of pressure, you only had to be in love with that sport and do it for the love of sport and not the money. So still I was making money, but not really that much.
But there's also an interesting twist here because everything you've said about wanting to leave Iran and not feeling like you fit in and all of that, you're in the West at this point. You've obviously started to make a life there. Tell me about why you wanted at this point then to return to Iran. And you've said something interesting. You said you wanted to do something for my country. Mm-hmm. What did you want to do?
So the reason that I went back was my father. Once my father called me and he had a very serious talk. And he said, first of all, we are not getting any younger. and one day you will have to live without us. So why don't we use this time which is left? The other thing is that I said, like, okay, I'm fighting and stuff, and he said, like, okay, explain to me what will happen next time you fight. And I said, oh, I'm defending my title. He said, what happened if you win? I said, I will keep the title. He said, what happened if he wins? I said, I will lose the title. He said that practically you're not gaining anything. So, and you're putting so much harm to your body for something which you already have. You want to retain that. Is it really that smart? And that got under my skin. And I realized that, okay, that's it. So, and the payment is not really that great. And I was doing some stuff aside because we opened a chain of gyms with my friends, which was kind of successful, was going well. I was making more money doing that job.
Right.
You see, like living abroad for a long time, and really, I realized that, okay, I missed home. So I went back to Iran. I had no business in Iran, so I decided to do something in Dubai. I lost a large amount of money in Dubai. It was such a big disaster, breakdown. But anyway, I got up my feet and went back to Iran, and I decided to set up a business. And what could I do? I'm a sportsman, so I started to making a gym. I found a friend. We got our money together, and that took us 4.5 years to achieve.
But let me just fast track this part, because I mean, not only do you open a gym in Tehran this time, you there's other businesses as well, right? A Lebanese restaurant, a production studio, a hair salon, an online training application.
I mean, later, because I had no money at the time. I mean,
but is it fair to say that you? I mean, just reading through your history of starting all kinds of, you are as much an entrepreneur as you are an athlete, and you seem constantly driven. You're not someone who likes to be idle. You're not someone who, I mean, you seem to be driven to constantly want to create things, businesses. If you're not working on your own body and your own career as an athlete, you're building all these other things. Not everybody is like that. Why do you think you have that kind of drive?
I don't know. You see, I mean, I don't really plan for that. You know, I can drive very fast. I can drive really fast. But you know how I do that? I push the gas pedal and I control the car, and that's how it happens. I mean, I have to throw myself into something and then try to find a way out. And most of the time I manage. Sometimes I don't, but somehow I survive. Many people think that my father used to be somebody in the government or a cleric, and he helped us through this and that. And we were never raised like that. You see, my father actually is not a rich man, exactly the opposite. I don't want to talk about my father's financials because this is like his private things, but my father was a very honest man, and that's why I don't know, he didn't really mix up with all the people in the power, and he's at home right now. He's not doing anything. Anyway,
I mean, it wouldn't help. Like, you couldn't. I mean, isn't this the whole point, that you have this dad who's, you know, somehow
was never. I mean, you see, we are not like, I don't know. I mean, I know there's so many corrupted people in the government, but not everybody is corrupted. You see, my brother went to Iran. I mean, went to war, and now he is sitting on the wheelchair. My father is not rich. My other brother went and served the country, just like everybody else. I was lucky to get dismissed through the laws, which even my father had nothing to do with it. And we always learned to go and work for ourselves. You see, none of my, I mean, my brothers are not rich. I mean, they're doing okay because they're doing okay. I mean, they're working hard, and so did I. I built everything on my own. And
because after you've gone through this thing in Germany where you have this moment where you go, this is, and your dad says, you know, think about what this is doing to your body, and you kind of say, okay, I'm going to be done with martial arts, and you come back to Iran and you get involved in these businesses, etc. You start competitive fighting again in Iran. In fact, you win another title. Why did you go back to it?
Oh, Okay, that it was because of my wife. You want to know about my wife?
Sure.
I fell in love with my wife. It's through Facebook. I was in Iran. I saw a picture of my wife. It was a picture which was a little bit of Photoshop involved, I guess. It was black and white. So I didn't know. No. I mean, she wasn't made more beautiful. She's she's prettiest one I've ever seen in my life. But
right.
no, I mean, the picture was a professional picture.
Right.
So I didn't know if it is a supermodel from Israel, South Africa, or a real person.
Right.
So I fell in love with the picture. It took me 1 week to find out who the real person is.
So wait a second. So you find, where did you see this picture on Facebook? Was it like was it a suggested friend, or how do you?
Exactly. You know, like the Facebook is, you know how it's Facebook, because I'm not on Facebook anymore that often, but it used to be like that. You click from here and then you land 50 pages later, you know?
Right.
This is how it was.
Right.
It used to just drive you from there and there. And then
okay.
I saw this picture and I fell in love with the picture.
Oh.
I was so lucky because it was an Iranian girl who used to live in Tehran, who was single, and she was not really living that far away from me.
Mm.
So I thought to myself, if this is not destiny, then I don't know what. So I was determined to see her. I mean, like, I was so interested and she's so not interested.
Oh, she wasn't interested at first?
Well, not really, because imagine she was a pretty girl on Facebook. You know how many people hit on her?
So you're just another guy who's
and I'm
trying to contact
just another
her,
guy who, okay, it happened, who maybe was a kickboxer doing well. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I had a few points.
Right.
Because she was also into sports. So, and then it was the 89, the anniversary of 88.
Yes.
Green movement.
Yes.
And we both were active, so we were writing each other and just be careful and stuff. We made friends, you know, on Facebook. And then after a while, we met. And the moment that I saw her, I mean, I looked into her eyes, I knew that she is the woman of my life.
Wow.
So, and we went there. I sat with her, we talked, and I got lucky because she liked me back. And 3 months later, we were living under the same roof.
In Tehran.
In Tehran.
I'm waiting for the part where she leads you back to doing martial arts, because so far you've told me a story about you fell in love with a beautiful girl.
Yeah. So she was my muse, actually. You see, like, she was the reason why I got the power, because at the time I was so frustrated. She helped me she helped me out. I mean, she was there for me, and did actually practically everything for her. Then she started training with me. She always said, like, I missed it. You used to fight, and I wasn't there. So I thought, like, okay, how about if we fight again once more, and this time you'd be on my corner.
Wow.
And she loved the idea. Last time I fought was 2009, prior to 2010, 2009, and it was now 2013.
Sure.
And in the level that I used to fight, this is crazy. So I started making a few phone calls, and in Europe, promoters, people know me. I mean, if I wanted to fight, everybody would give me fights. I received so many calls. Even I received a call from Kuwait, which I could fight there for good money. So I thought that I will get the Kuwait fight for a comeback. And my own promoter gave me, because I was an elite fighter, so according to the rules, elite fighter could challenge the world champion or the first contender. So he told me that if you fight in Augsburg, in my own city, in Germany, he will give me a shot at the title. So I said, like, okay, another title. And this one was ISKA, which is the biggest banner in kickboxing. And I said, okay, I'll fight for ISKA title, but I needed a warm-up fight. So I took the fight in Kuwait, which never happened. They were a little bit tricky. The Kuwaitis in kickboxing, it happened quite, often. They didn't give me the name of opponent till it was 2 weeks prior to fight, and I said, "Hey guys, I need to know who I'm fighting." And I realized that maybe they want to surprise me with somebody, I don't know. So I just said, "Okay, it's too much risk." I canceled the fight, and I concentrated on my title fight comeback. It was very difficult. It took me 3 months to get in shape. And Germany didn't give visa to my wife.
Oh.
That time she wasn't my wife at the time, of course. And I fought alone. Shabnam was not there in the ring when I fought.
Did you? But you won, right?
Oh yes, I won. But if my wife was there, I would have fought much better.
Let me make a couple of observations about you. First of all, for a strong guy who clearly has a strong sense of self, you are really affected by these really important people in your life, whether it's your dad saying, "Come back to Iran," or your wife or your future wife at that point saying, "I want to see you fight." The people can have a big impact on you, huh?
Yeah, they can. Of course, I get inspired by people all the time. That's why I'm very communicative. Talk to people. I have so many friends. God knows from where. And I really love to be in touch with people. That's why we're on Instagram, and that's why we love it to talk to people. Get connected to people, feel each other. It's amazing.
So the other observation I was going to make about you is that even though your reputation is to be someone kind of cocky. You've got a strong sense of self. As I said, you're confident. But I think in this interview, you're very honest. You're Roqe. You talk about being a lousy boxer, or the business in Dubai that failed, or the insecurities that you've had, or the vulnerabilities. So let me ask you this in the spirit of this Roqeness. Why is there so much controversy about your titles? You're a champion. Why is there, doing research about you, there's these folks who say you're not a champion, or that some of what you claim to have won is not.
There is actually not. I tell you, there is nothing about that. There is only one person who made that all up.
Okay. What
Yeah,
this Majid Fallah guy?
No.
Okay, well, it
was the Rostampur guy.
Okay, why did he do that?
Asking me. Because I'm not, I'm exactly the opposite, because he has made a video, 9 minutes video about me, which, I don't know, maybe 1 million people have watched it. And at the time when he made the video, he had only 60,000 followers. So that was a huge blast in his page. And in that movie, they're all wrong accusations, except my father being an akhund. The only thing is that, if you type my name now, you really don't find much about me. Of course, if you're an expert, you know how to dig in. But if you're not martial artists, or if you're not familiar with the sport, you just type my name, and there are a few things about me. Because, I used to fight, 2 decades ago. And at the time, kickboxing was not really on the internet that much. And so many organizations are gone. They don't exist anymore. They just mixed up together. They unify with each other. WKA is no more active. WTKL doesn't exist anymore. WIKA doesn't exist anymore. And the only one is ISKA. And the gentleman wrote an email to the ISKA, and they clearly answered every question. But he decided not to mention the questions and thingy in that email.
Yeah, I don't know that much about kickboxing. I'm just reacting to seeing that there's this controversy, and wanted to know what your take on it was. It doesn't.
He's the only one who did that, and Majid Fallah actually is a fighter. He is not a big name. He was an amateur.
Wasn't he the captain
fighter.
of the Iranian national kickboxing?
Yeah, you see, but the Iranian national team never got anywhere.
Oh.
I mean,
so what's his problem with you?
He said, like, you are not a good champion, and everybody knows that. Who knows that? Is you who are telling that. Go and ask those who know. You know, I mean, I don't. I mean, when I saw that, I started caring about that because, first of all, people like me and follow me because who I am, not because of the titles I won. I mean, asking my followers, so many of them don't know even that I used to fight.
Right.
And well, there is no controversy about that. It was just the gentleman who brought that up, and it paid well. You see, like he
I get it.
Doubled
I get that
followers.
The controversies lead to clicks. I'm very familiar with all that. Let's get to your followers, because you have a huge footprint in social media. I mean, you I guess you started becoming active over the last 10 years online, and particularly on Instagram. You were still in Iran, and you become very popular and famous along with your wife Shabnam, and even later your children. How do you think what was the magic sauce where you become such an influencer with well over 500,000 followers?
Okay. You see, first of all, you should know that my wife and we were really into social media that much that I met my wife through Facebook. I proposed to her on her wall.
You did?
When I said to my mom was first of all very happy that I want to marry, and then said, "Son, you're an idiot." And okay, it wasn't like that. She because she didn't know about Facebook anything. I just showed her that, look, I wrote her, will you marry me? And she said, like, okay, can everybody read that? And I said, yes. And I said, son, you're an idiot, because what if she says no? I said, like, okay, then she says no. I don't know.
This is a very really 21st century story.
Into social media.
You didn't want to get on your knee and be lakeside or with
boring. No. And then when we switched on Instagram, because everything in Iran was banned and filtered, and Instagram was the only social media existing in Iran, I don't know, like people started liking us, and I would say that maybe we had those factors. You see, I don't know, like there are a few points that you need to have in order to people like you, and maybe we had a couple of those. And people found us interesting, especially a couple who always are together, train together, like have fun, and I don't know, have kind of lifestyle that people maybe like, I don't know. But we were aware of that when we made a small trip inside Iran, because once we did we traveled through Iran. We went to Tabriz, and we were doing posts on the way, and then we started like getting responses. People were asking us, oh, come to our place, or where are you? People came on the street and they literally found us.
Wow.
And it was very strange to us. I said, it was crazy. I can't explain it how it was, because it was like, I never felt like that before. There were people standing in the entrance of the city where there was a petrol pump, and there they saw us. They said like they were waiting for us because they thought maybe we want to tank our car here. And I said to my wife, wow, that's influence, and let's use it for good. So we started using that influence. We raised money for so many children who had difficulties with expenses in their medical procedures, or so many people we did so many charity works. There were people who were kicked out of their house because they were behind rents, or I don't know, some people who were in jail and because they owed money to people, or many children that we helped, or other adults who had problem with their medical expenses. And then we started doing so-called Farhang Sazi, because I think that this is something
culture building
that our culture really needs at the moment, because after 42 years of revolution, the people are lost. I mean, we are all lost, because we're going wrong direction. You see, our culture got mutated somehow. And we thought like, this is the place, the platform we can use and talk to people. And they say that if you want to see a change in the world, become that change. So we started like behaving the way we wanted everybody to behave and showing it to people, talking to people. And it started working really, really good.
Do you like the fame part of it? I mean, you're probably more famous than you've ever been now. Is that something that feels good, that you enjoy?
Certainly. Okay, enjoy. Of course, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, even if I was not, let's say, I mean, if the people didn't know me, I still would be the same person. And this small amount of fame didn't change me. It didn't make me different. I mean, another person. I think it didn't. But of course, it is not easy, especially in Persian social media, because you know that Persian social media is very abusive and very offensive as well. You see, they got good parts and there are...
I thought that was just social media in general. It doesn't have to...
well, yeah, but no. I mean, okay, I don't know. You should have your experience, which I'm sure you have.
Yes, yes, I have.
But people are ready. I mean, this is how it is. You see, I fought for so many years for my country, and then one guy come up with a video and then look what he did to me. This is how it is. But yeah, we like it. I mean, we liked it because we did a lot of good things. I mean, we did a lot of things which I'm very proud of. I mean, we together, people, raising a fund for somebody who needed, let's say, I don't know, $100,000 to get out of jail. And there were people who were paying 5 cents. But they felt like being part of a good deed, good thing to do. And that I could say that brought a change, you know?
It's kind of the best part of social media, where you can actually really build a community. Picasso, let me then get to I mean, before I let you go, we have to get to the story of what's happened over the last year. So you become repeatedly summoned to the intelligence ministry in Iran and warned about your social media activities, you and your wife. First of all, how seriously would you take these warnings at first?
Oh, if it is in the Ministry of Information, you take it serious. I mean, everybody does. You see, that's the last stage. It's like cancer stage 4.
But it didn't stop you from posting things or doing what you believe you should have the freedom to do.
You see, talking about controversy and people talking about me, it was like for 2 years, people were always accusing me of being supape etminan. It means like you are telling all this stuff, you're criticizing the government, but you are with the government, you are with the regime, you're criticizing it so that we feel there is freedom of speech. Otherwise, there are people who've been taken in custody or vanished for writing way less than you do, so you are with government. And then once they picked us up, everything changed. And it was a couple of young guys, I mean, young teenagers, some people who were on a boat, on a lake, swimming together, girls and boys. And somebody shoot their pictures while swimming. And that picture went viral.
Yes.
Shabnam came up from our home gym, said to me that, you know about those children, those kids? I said, yes. He said, one of them is cousin of a pupil of mine, a student of mine. I said, okay. He said, day before yesterday, 6 a.m. in the morning, they have raided their house and picked them up with their computers, cell phones and everything, and arrested the whole family. And I said, oh shit. And he said, now keep writing whatever you're writing and always say nothing happens. I swear to God, this is the truth. She went back downstairs to the gym. 3 or 4 minutes later, I received a call with no ID color on it. And I said, like, oh God. I picked up the phone. Hello? And he said, yes, Mr. Said Ahmed Moyin Shirazi. And I said, I mean, nobody calls me that. Everybody calls me Picasso. So I knew that, shit, this is serious. And then they said, yeah, are you at home right now? And I said, yes. I said, can you please remain at home? Because we are sending you a letter and we need to hand it to you in person. And I said, like, okay, where is the letter from? He said, it's a letter from the court. And I said, okay, has it to do with my gym or other businesses, restaurant or whatever I have? They said, no. It is for you and your wife. We call you from Ministry of Information. I said, "Aqa man korkoparam richt" in Persian. And he said, oh, no, don't worry. Ministry of Information is a very friendly ministry who is there for your own security. And I'm sure there must be a misunderstanding. So there are a few questions that you have to clear and there is nothing to worry about. So I remained at home and a big fellow delivered the letter.
Sorry, when was this? How long ago was this?
It was 2018.
It's a couple of years ago, yeah.
Yeah. So I went downstairs. And you see, Shabnam came and told me that because Shabnam was always against what I used to write. And all this criticizing the government. My father seriously disliked it. And he always told me, stop writing what you're doing, because this is, first of all, you're wrong. You are wrong. And second of all, this is very dangerous what you're doing. Don't think that I could protect you.
But Picasso, are you saying that they used the pretext of you guys, putting pictures on the internet that goes against the laws, and they used that as the pretext to come after you, when what they really were coming after you for was the fact that you were taking political positions against the government?
We were a package, because there was propaganda against the regime was one of the accusations, which was what I was doing according to them. I never thought that I'm doing any propaganda against the regime, because I was thinking that I'm writing very smart. I used to tell my wife, you see, why they come to us and why they haven't come to us actually, or for us, is because I write very smart, I know the red lines. I don't cross them. This is what I was thinking.
Right.
But no, that wasn't the case. I don't know why. They should have come way earlier, because I tell you why. When we went there, they had copies of maybe 1,000 posts of my wife, 500 posts of mine, each one printed on a paper, written something on it with a comment on it, and they were all there as evidence. I had a post which I wrote. It was too offensive, I would say. It was a little bit too sharp. After a few friends of mine read it, they called me and they said, Picky, maybe you want to delete this because this has gone too far.
And what did you say in that post?
It was about Dukhtaran Enqilab or something like that. Okay. The girls who used to take off
Daughters of the Revolution.
Stuff,
Yeah, Daughters of the Revolution.
But I used some strong terms. And when the third guy, the same night, called me and he said, Picky, what is it? Take it off. I deleted it. So that post was maybe for 4 or 3 hours on my Instagram.
And they had it.
And they had a copy of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe I don't know how it works, but they had a copy of a post which was only 3 hours on my page. And I was like, wow, you guys are good. Anyhow, we went there. We were really scared.
Can I just stop you for a second? Because you're telling this story almost in a in retrospect, in almost a fun way, but.
Sorry.
But no, don't be sorry. I mean, that's probably
because I go from A to F and F to P, and I don't know.
Well, I wonder if, I mean, you when you say you were scared, I imagine you were on some level terrified at this point, right? Because this isn't a joking matter. This is gonna,
No. Especially when we had 2 children.
You start to realize that they're quite serious about this. They're after you, and you have crossed the line. What were the kind of conversations you were having with Shabnam at this point?
Oh, when I went down and told Shabnam, okay, she really let me have it. And we don't really argue much. And that was one of the moments, because she told me that she has been telling me for, I don't know, last 2 years, and I never listened. My father's been telling me, I never listened. Everybody's been telling me, I never listened. And now look what you did, because we are not political fighters, like we are not free fighters or whatever, because we have 2 children, we're family. And what should we do now? I mean, who is going to look after our kids? And at the time, my daughter was 10 months old, and she used to be fed through my wife, And we knew that they were picking up bloggers and influencers since months. And what they used to do, they used to take their phones and take their Instagrams down and post a picture that Setade, I don't know what, it was like, this page has been seized by this authority of Islamic Republic and blah, 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 blah. So we didn't take our cell phones with us. And of course, I had some conversations with Masih Ali Nejad. She used to write us sometimes that, I love watching your family and I miss my own family. And we used to write her back. She was very kind, very nice. I mean, regular conversations. I deleted everything because I knew that they were very, they're so sensitive about her. And started some political conversations I had with people. I deleted them anyway, but we didn't take our phone. And since our passwords are too complicated, we couldn't give us our accounts even if we wanted to.
It sounds like you, even after you get called in, and even after you have the big fight with Shabnam, and even after you realize that this is serious, you still couldn't have anticipated that you're going to get sentenced to 16 years in prison.
Just look at my page, Jian. What have I done to deserve that? We did so much good in that country. I have started so many campaigns which they have had so many fruitful results. Do you know that I pick up cigarette butts and I started a wave and campaign in Iran? And do you know how many people, thousands of people do that in Iran?
So why do you think the sentence was so harsh?
They were looking for examples to scare other people. The election of the parliament was close, and they didn't want anybody to take any side. They realized that we have become too influential, maybe. And of course, we were not with them. We were not enemy of, of the regime, let's say that, Of course, I don't like them. I didn't want them. I always prayed that they go, but I was never a political activist. You know what I mean? So they thought, maybe, what if one day they decide to go against us for good? For example, you see, after that, what happened? The government knew things before they happened. For example, a few months later, they shot 1,500 people on the streets. And maybe they knew things like that would come, and they wanted to get rid of those people who could, influence people to do something like that. Because the moment that we got out of the country, we lost that magic.
Well, hang on a second.
I mean,
that's an interesting thing to say, but hang on a second. So I guess at some point in 2020, especially, you realize that you either have to stay in Iran and go to jail potentially for 16 years, potentially.
No, I didn't even know. I didn't even know what was going on. I mean, we left the country. We didn't know that we will be dealt with so
Oh,
harshly.
that's right. You got the sentence in absentia. So tell me about the decision to leave Iran, the decision to, I guess, flee, to get yourself out of there, and that couldn't have been an easy decision to make.
Yeah, you see, the first day as we were interrogated, it was kind of funny because the moment I stepped in, I wasn't afraid anymore because I was always terrified that I get beaten up by them. And I realized that I saw that there are two guys, they can't take me out. I mean, even if they wanted to beat me, they had to politely ask that you don't hit us back when we hit you. I felt okay, you know. And they started asking crazy questions. They had asked the same question from my wife. They asked me whether I have a girlfriend, whether I have an affair. They asked the same thing from my wife. Imagine asking a lady, do you have an affair? Do you have a boyfriend? Does your husband know about it? So like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? And they asked me the same thing, or a question like that. And the guy used to call himself Chainsaw. They interrogated us for 4 hours, myself 3.5 hours, my wife, and they made us write stuff. They asked us, first of all, if that we have done it by ourselves, like we were not told to do so by any Western country, by any enemy or whatever. And they asked us that we promised that we don't do the same thing, which means we don't criticize, write critics about the government, and we don't show, we don't have pictures without hijab. And then they said, like, the third is we are going to delete all the malicious content in our page. And then we are not going to talk about it to anyone, which we were picked up by them, no one. And we will cooperate. Okay, the fifth part, the cooperation, I didn't sign. And I said, okay, let me tell you, I am not cooperating with you. And that was actually the main problem, because I come to that. Because when next time they called me again after 5 or 4 weeks, after we deleted almost all the pictures of my wife's without hijab. I didn't delete them, by the way. I archived them. And they didn't even ask us where is our cell phone, or they didn't want to take our pages, anything. They said, do whatever you're doing, just delete these and don't write that and don't do like this and that. And you're now free to go after, of course, 4 hours. But 4 weeks later, they called in again. They called us in again, but they said, like, now you can come to our office. They took us to an office. We were both together, my wife and myself. They had tea, coffee, some pastries. They were like more friendly, still threatenful, but friendly. And we talked, and they said, like, yes, some more posts you have to delete because the persecutor is not happy with it. They said, like, these and these and these posts should also be deleted. We said, okay. And at the end, they said that we want your cooperation. And we said, look, we were clear. No, there is nothing, but we don't even like you. We don't want to cooperate with you. He said, like, yeah, no. You see, not that kind of cooperation. We want you you see, Masih al-Nejad, many people sent her videos of a woman getting beaten up because of hijab. And she posted. So they said, like, we have so many archives like that. And we want to show to the authorities that this way of behavior is wrong and it backfires. So we give you some of these files which nobody has. You send it to Masih. Masih will share them, and people get angry, and I will tell my boss or whatever, my superiors, that, look, this is what I mean. It makes people more angry. You say, like, why should I do that? You send it
this
to
is
her.
crazy.
I said, like, you are acting like Masih al-Nejad is public enemy number 1. So why do you want me to send her stuff? You do it yourself. I mean, anybody who can send materials to Masih doesn't care who's sending. If she sees it's legit, she will post it. Or why don't you give it to me? I will post it. I mean, I will post it. Maybe somebody from my page will send it to Masih. We didn't accept it. And clearly we said no. And he said, okay, then the no is no. He said, yeah. Okay, he said, okay, then now you can go. But if anybody from any authority calls you for any other accusations, it had nothing to do with us. We are clear with you, but we don't know about others. We said, okay, now we can go. He said, yes, go. Of course, they were very annoyed that I kissed my wife. Oh, that was one of those things which they really disliked. And he called me.
This was a post. This was a post on the Instagram.
It was the first time. He said, like, you see, it's very funny, Jian. They had a scale of measuring things. Every 100K people was one Stadium Azadi. So every time that they want to talk about 100,000 people, they used to say one Stadium Azadi, two Stadium Azadi, five Stadium Azadi.
Okay.
You are kissing your wife in front of 4 Stadium Azadi. And I said, like, dude, I would kiss her in front of 7 billion people. And the guy said, like, شماها دیگه انقدر بی‌حیایین. We were two different worlds, you know.
Yes,
and he called me like, okay, you guys are, I don't know, like.
So Picasso, how do you end up getting out of the country? Did you have to sneak out? Did you have to escape?
Okay, that's a very stressful part, because we received an SMS that we have to go to court. Still, after all those things we did, we went to the court, and they accused us of treason and so many stuff that was written there, and they tried to arrest us. And we had no idea that they will arrest us, because we had 2 children, and they told us, you will come, we'll deal with you within an hour, you can go. So this is how we like managed everything. My sister-in-law was at home with our daughter. Our son was in kindergarten. We went there to come out quickly, and they arrested us and put us in cells. And if our lawyer was not there, if my mom wasn't there begging the prosecutor, they wouldn't even let us to bail ourselves out. So we had to bail ourselves out. The lawyers said that all the accusations that they have made against you, it is not something that you could get away with. So you have to count on some jail time, definitely. So I came up with the idea. I said, what if we leave the country and you represent us? Oh, we said, this is a wonderful idea. But can you leave the country? We don't know. So
did you think you could leave the country? Did you think you could figure out a way?
It is very, very moody and selective. It always depends on the person in charge. So we started asking. Imagine I asked 10 people that I thought maybe they could find out. And we didn't get a clear answer. So our lawyer told us not to talk over the phone, like via the phone, about us leaving. Don't tell anybody, and just leave. So we thought, what is going to happen even if we have a travel ban? Because we checked on the computer which everybody else can check, and we did not have a travel ban, but we're still not sure. So we thought, okay, we'll go all together, but first I will go and I'll try to cross the custom department, that place when they stamp your passport. If I have a travel ban, Shabnam will know, and she will leave without giving up her passport. This is what we did. We went there, and we had no travel ban. Of course, I couldn't leave the country at the day, because according to my passport, I was German resident, and people who are resident of other countries in Iran, they can't live in Iran more than 6 months. And I stayed longer than a year. So they said, you have to go and change the residency in your passport and then come back and go. So she left, and I went and I changed my residency, and I left the country after 3 days. But during these 3 or 4 days, Shabnam used to send picture of kids, close-up pictures, so that you can't really realize where they are. And I used to post stories of my kids and I used to send pictures of our house to Shabnam. Shabnam used to make stories so that nobody knew that they were gone.
Wow. Yeah.
So the day that I left Iran and we made a story from Turkey, the chainsaw wrote me on WhatsApp. And he was very, very not happy.
I was going to ask you, now that you're in Turkey, I mean, ostensibly you're safe to a certain extent because you're outside of Iran, but you must still kind of be watching your back, we
are.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm here as a German national, and people keep telling me that, maybe they want to pick you up and stuff. But I actually, Jian, I see no reason because I'm nobody. I mean, I'm not doing anything. I'm not a political, threat. And I think they have more important stuff to do. And I believe that they can't pick up a German national from here. And even if they could, there are rules for that. You see, if you're politically, endangered, I don't think that they can take you back.
No, but you're not a...
Tatalu, why should they take me?
But Picasso, you're not a shrinking violet. I mean, even doing interviews like this one, it's not that you're saying anything that anybody else wouldn't say or anything scathing, but you're an irritant, surely, to them because you just won't go away. You must be you must be aware that you cannot return to Iran now. You're home. Tell me how that feels. I mean, this time, unless there's a regime change, you're not going back.
That I told you about. You see, like other times when I was out, I felt good. You see, I felt relieved. I said, like, okay, now I'm in a free world. Now let me enjoy like all the advantages of free world they can offer me for a while till I go back. And I really liked it. But this time, I miss Iran. And just the fact, I don't know if you saw the video of Shabnam and her mom,
yes,
you would know how I feel now. I mean, just the feelings that if you want to go back, you can't. I wouldn't even eat lunch if I have to. You know what I mean?
Although I would tell you that there are many, 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 many of us in the Iranian diaspora who still have family in Iran and who know that we could not return there. We cannot even visit there. So I get how it feels. Do you still hear from Iranians inside Iran? I've got to imagine you do in social media. What do they say to you?
Of course. I mean, except those trolls, people really, really are very kind to us. They really, really like us. They love us. They're all very sorry. But when I told you once that we lost the magic.
Yes.
So let me tell you that there is a called Cyber Army of Islamic Republic of Iran. There are maybe thousands of people active in different social medias with hundreds of thousands of different profiles, fake profiles. And they always try to manipulate. They always try to start waves or make things viral or try to show that things may not be that bad, or like they just somehow reflect the truth another way. And at the beginning, when I used to criticize things happening in Iran, some of these pages used to come and write, "To dige dahanetو beband, tu ke Iran nisti," or like, if you were man enough, you would stay here, or you're no more there, you're Persian says neshesti birun god migi lengesh kon. You're sitting out of the thing, out of the game, and just giving advice with not putting yourself in danger. And I would see that so many people liked the comment, so the comment stayed there, and that would influence everybody else. And they said, like, you shut your mouth. You're not even entitled to say anything about Iran anymore. And I realized that, you see, when you are in Iran, your words, they have value. When you're out of Iran, then you lose the magic. This is exactly what happened. And I believe that the whole theater and the whole drama was that they wanted us out. Otherwise, why would they want to put us in jail? I mean, what would it bring to them, except that publicity? But now that we are out, we are no more in the country, and they get rid of us, and they're happy. I'm sure they're happy. And believe me, we are happy as well. But the only thing is that we miss home, and the thing that we can't visit our beloved ones, and we lost most of our businesses.
So speaking of your beloved ones, have you spoken to your father since you were exiled?
When this thing happened, my father was so angry at me because, first of all, he believed that I deserved it. He believed that what is happening to me is right because I did wrong things. And he was angry because he always said that I told you so and you never listened. He was so angry that he didn't talk to me for 8 months after we left. Of course, we didn't tell him that we are leaving. But the last day I wanted to leave, I went there, I saw them, I visited them, we didn't tell anything. Even after my wife had left for 3-4 days before I joined her, I didn't tell them that she's not home. And he was disappointed of me, and he didn't talk to me for 8 months. And then once we talked, of course, he talked like very seriously, and he let me really have it. But then we're like father and son. At the end of the day, we're family, so we don't talk about other stuff like business as before. We just talk about, how are you, son? How are you, father? How is everything doing? And just like that. Not really that often. I really miss his company and talking to him that much. But yeah, what can I do? And as he told me once, you're not getting any younger, so this breaks my heart. But you see, this whole thing for the last 42 years, this cursed, has put everybody in misery in Iran. Don't you agree?
Wow, man, this has been quite a conversation. I really appreciate the amount of time and energy you've invested in this, and the amount of candor and honesty you've brought to this
Thank
conversation.
You for letting me all out.
No, I mean it's been fascinating. Let me just one final question, which is, I mean, what do you believe the next step in your journey is? Do you see yourself staying in Turkey? Are you going to come to North America? Are you going to continue being an influencer?
Question.
What is the next step on the journey of Picasso?
We wanted to go back to Germany since my children are German citizens as well. And I see Germany as my second home. I speak their language and they're always welcome. I have many good friends there, and the Germans have been always very kind to me. But when we came to, these few days that Shabnam was staying here with kids, when I came, I decided to stay for a few days to get a relief in our head. And I realized that, wow, this is a great city. We fell in love with the city. We decided to stay here. But I'm not sure if forever. And going back to Germany, we went once to Germany, and all of a sudden everything looked different, with 2 children going, and imagine that we don't have that kind of financial stat that we used to have. The kind of life that I can arrange for my children here is way better than what I could offer them in Germany.
I hope you take care of yourself. I hope you stay safe. Regards to Shabnam and your kids. And again, I look forward to talking soon.
I know I talk too much. Everybody tells me that, and you were a very good listener.
I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much, and Khudafiz.
Damit gern dadash, Khudafiz.
Picasso Moyin, an Iranian kickboxing champion, an entrepreneur, a major social media influencer, now living in exile with his family in Turkey. Picasso joined us from Istanbul today. Microphones on for Shaya and Captain Reza.
Hello, sir.
Keon's joining us in a little bit for Letters of the Week. It was an interesting conversation, man.
It was.
Mr. Picasso, what did you think of that, Reza?
Wow. I didn't know his father was an
Ahund?
Ahund. Yeah.
It's pretty famously so.
Right. I wasn't that famous. Well, I didn't know the guy, so I guess this is a point.
You're not a kickboxing fan.
I'm not a kickboxing fan, nor am I
You're not
that
a
big on
social
social
media
media.
fan. Yeah.
No, but what a story! Oh my God, the guy, he's positive, eh? Like he's like, oh, I was living under the bridge and I was happy at the time. I don't know. I try to take positive aspects of every conversation, even though I may not relate to the character necessarily.
It's interesting, if I mentioned this at the top of the interview with him, if you just look at his Instagram, which is quite huge in terms of the followers and stuff, he looks entirely happy. He and his wife have this seemingly lovely life now in Turkey. I guess that's sort of always been the case.
Yeah.
I mean, and for him, his answer to that was he wants to spread positivity, so he's not dwelling in the less than a year ago he's sentenced to 16 years in prison.
It's crazy.
And he's not going to see his family anytime
That's
soon, one
crazy.
presumes. But
I was going through his Instagram. One thing that I really like, he's an advocate for anti-animal abuse, activist and stuff like that. He's a big activist on animal issues and stuff.
Shaya, did you know of Picasso before?
Yeah, I've heard his story before. I mean, we we lived our youth in Tehran and we passed it, but I hope a bright day for his kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, as I say, we've got Letters of the Week coming up in just a little bit with Kian Nademi joining us. But, first, it's Monday, and each week she enriches our lives by teaching us language that we did not know, at least some of us. And she completes us in our mission to be perfect English and Persian blended specimens. She is the person behind the popular Englisi Farsi Instagram page, but as importantly, she is the Persian priestess of proverbs, the Australian sage of sayings, the wondrous woman of words, our resident Roqe wordsmith, and she joins us right now from Australia. She is Mona from Melbourne. Hello, Mona.
Durud, love the music.
I love that we've ascribed jazz music to you. Like we just decided that that's what you. I don't know. Are you a jazz fan? Are you a player? I mean, well,
Oh, I can appreciate a good jazz beat, but yeah, I find it very amusing. Thank you. I like it.
It's the Mona theme. It's some badass jazz playing there. So, what are you bestowing upon our imaginations today, all the way from Melbourne? A word, a saying, a proverb, perhaps?
A proverb, indeed.
It is a proverb. Oh,
yes,
wow.
This week
Actually,
is a proverb.
It's finally the proverb of the week.
We had to dig deep with this one. It's actually a tribute to my husband. It's one of his favorite sayings. And it comes from, I don't know if you guys are DC fans, anyone? Or are you Marvel fans?
I was always a Marvel. I was always more Marvel,
More
than
Marvel.
DC, yeah.
Okay.
DC always felt very American to me, whereas like Marvel was like Fantastic Four and, You, Reza?
Yeah.
I'm DC. I'm more of a DC
You're
guy.
DC? Okay, Reza's a DC guy.
Oh, there we go, Reza.
If this is a comics-related proverb?
It's actually Batman related.
Okay,
So,
Batman-related, all right.
it is, the night is darkest just before the dawn, and I promise you the dawn is coming. So do you know who said this quote, Reza? Do you remember which?
For dawn. I don't know.
I mean, if it's Batman-related, is it Bruce Wayne?
It's actually Harvey Dent.
Harvey
Dent
Dent.
addressing Gotham City
Oh.
just before the Joker strike. So this proverb is actually derived. Originally, it was thought to be from a Western influence, but when you dig deep, it actually comes from an Eastern influence. I'm sure you know what it means. It talks about how the night is darkest before dawn, and really it's about that hopelessness where you feel like everything is lost, but then the dawn arises and everything is
So
okay
wait a second.
again.
Do you, Shaya, do you know what this Farsi proverb is yet?
I would say پایان شب سیاه سپید است, but
Is that the one, Mona?
That sounds like
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. Oh,
wow.
we need a bell. We need some kind of bell.
That was amazing.
Wow, Shaya. But Shaya, you weren't sure about it. Say it again.
پایان شب سیاه سپید است.
پایان شب سیاه سپید است.
Yes.
Wow.
There's actually a segment before that. Do you know the prefix to that?
So actually, I don't want to take a time, but I have to think more.
Wow.
Please let us know.
Sure, I'll let you ruminate. It's yeah. So originally, this phrase was actually quoted in 1650 when an English author, Thomas Fuller, wrote the version of a book called Pisgah, Sight of Palestine and the Confines Thereof. And in this book, it talks about it's always darkest just before the day dawneth. And they realized that it was probably documented from a more ancient proverb. So when you dig deeper, it actually has origins in the Persian romance of Layli and Majnun. So Layli and Majnun predate Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, so Romeo and Juliet is a Roman version of
They
the
stole.
Shakespearean
Yeah.
They
version.
stole. Yeah.
It's all Persian. It's all Persian to us.
Son of
That's
a gun.
right. So when you look at Nazami Ganjawi's literature, he has this saying inside his story. در ناامیدی بسی امید است. پایان شب سیاه سپید است.
Beautiful.
So this is a proverb because it sounds like a poetry to me.
That's it's a proverb.
That's a proverb.
It's always
Okay.
darkest before
Yeah.
light. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So what is the story with Layli and Majnun?
So these are two lovers who come from opposing families, very similar to the Romeo and Juliet scenario, where they're basically forbidden love. So they basically pine for each other, and Majnun goes deep into the forest to like try and forget, but then his love falls deeper into love with Layli. But it's interesting because they're actually never reunited. They're only reunited in death, which follows the same story of Romeo and Juliet. Mm. And you know that Majnun actually means insane. The actual definition of his name is insane.
Yes. Manajan, actually, do you know it has a modern version by Sohrab Sepehri? And when you feel somebody's hopeless, you would say اندکی صبر سحر نزدیک است. Be more patient. The
Dawn is close.
Dawn is close, yeah.
Oh, nice. So is this the modern twist?
Yes, it's in a...
And Shaya has a song for in that regard. So it says, "This too shall pass."
We mention the song every week. Although, Shaya, I don't think that isn't the same thing. It's not entirely the same thing. Be patient, the dawn is coming. Because this is saying... it's always, the worst it's always gonna get worse before that it gets better. It's kind of
That's right.
preparing you for you're gonna have to walk
Yes.
through this difficult moment.
This is a milestone in Roqe where Jian corrected Shaya.
That's right. That's
No,
right.
that's...
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
interesting.
I knew there was something right about this show. Feels good, this one, for some reason. Mona, thank you very much. It's that was now the whole thing is too long for me. Let me just take the second half. Shab Siyah, say it again.
پایان شب سیاه سپید است.
All right. Thank you so much, Mona.
Pleasure. Lovely to talk to you guys again.
Thanks, Mona.
Talk to you next
Bye.
week.
Take care. Bye.
Mona Kiani, Mona from Melbourne. Find her page at English Farsi on Instagram. All right. Keon has now joined us. Are you there, Keon?
Hello, Jian.
Hello, Keon Docht.
خوب هستی؟
خوب هستم. It's Monday, and that doesn't just mean it's the Persian proverb of the week. It also means letters of the week.
All right, so we have quite a mixed bag of letters this week. So let me begin by episode 77. We had an interview with Iranian-American singer, composer, multi-instrumentalist and Persian sitar virtuoso Farid Shafi Nouri. The first letter comes from Gashast Nodan on YouTube. He says, "Fine episode. Farid has an interesting character. It is quite encouraging to see a young Iranian showing such interest and devotion to the art and culture of his ancestral homeland, despite being born and living so far away from it. He has steadfastly learned Persian music and its history, and has become an accomplished musician to a degree that he is now teaching it to others. Such a positive and constructive approach. I wish Farid all the success."
Very nice.
That was well said.
All right, moving on to Instagram, we have Layla Paints, _ Paints. I'm assuming she's a painter of some sort. She wrote, "Having lived in Canada for the past 43 years, I've often wondered how I'd be perceived if I go back to Iran. That's why I found this episode especially interesting. Thanks for asking the right questions from your super talented guest."
Thank you, Layla.
Moving on, we have Kusha from Kusha's Corner who wrote into us. She wrote, "Enjoyed listening to every minute of this interview. Hands down, one of the most interesting, thoughtful, articulate guests I've heard on your program. By the way, aside from all the interesting and thought-provoking things he shared, what he said about going from terrorist to tourist deeply, deeply resonated with me. That was an hour well spent. Fantastic interview."
Nice. Thanks, Kusha. I agree that Terrorist to Tourist was a great revelatory moment when he was talking about that.
And it's so heartwarming when other guests like write to us about our the other guests that we have on the show.
It is. It's very nice.
Yeah, indeed. I agree with that. And then we have Atusa Lutfi. She wrote, "It is without a doubt quite impressive to see an American-born individual dive so deep to discover and revive his roots. I am, however, more excited about the opportunity his passion creates. I think many of us, Iranian diaspora, are absolutely thirsty for an evolved form of traditional Persian music that speaks to our stories. May the adventure never end, Farid." I love that.
That's nice. You know, just to put this in context for people who didn't listen or haven't heard a lot about Farid yet and missed that episode so far, he's a guy who's born in Texas, grew up in America in a very Western way, therefore, but really has gravitated towards and felt an identification with his Persian roots, so much so that he has really thrown himself into discovering and building a career around classical Persian music and poetry. And it's a really interesting story. He still lives in the United States, spent some time living in Iran. And I should mention that Farid, for those who follow him would know this, but he has this teaching institute called the Radif Retreat Institute, and I just want to give it a shout out that he reopened his registration for private and master classes as of today, actually. So areas of study include Persian music theory, classical Persian poetry, as well as setar and avaz, and they start in February. So if you want to check this out, I mean, you can tune in from anywhere in the world and do these classes with him. Farid Shafi Nouri, Farid spelled F-A-R-E-D, Shafi Nouri. You can find its spelling on our website or whatever platform you're listening to us on. But well worth it. I feel like I should take some Radif retreat lessons.
I would do, yeah.
So last week on episode 78, we had author Barbara Slavin on the show to discuss the future of Iran with the new Biden era. So Barbara is the director of the Atlantic Council's Future of Iran initiative. And might I add, a lot of people had mixed feelings about Barbara. Let's start with YouTube. We have Alex Asqari. He wrote, "All I can hear is dishonesty in Barbara's voice. All she thinks about is business, like other Democrats. She has a clear history of having an intimate relationship with the mullahs of Iran. She doesn't care about Iranian people."
That's a loaded one.
I don't know if okay. All she thinks about is business, like other Democrats. I think Alex has shown his political stripes, but fair enough. You know, it's an opinion.
And then we have Ashkand, also on YouTube, wrote, "So disappointed. Jian should have challenged Barbara more on Iran's human rights violations. She talks so much about the new JCPOA deal and what needs to be included. She never once mentioned human rights to be a part of Biden's agenda.
Well, I appreciate the feedback, but I'm not sure why I would challenge Barbara on Iran's human rights. Barbara's a journalist. And I mean, through the interview, first of all, when I mentioned murderous regime, she agreed and compared the Iranian regime to communist China and the Soviet Union at its worst. So I'm not sure that she intimated that there's been some good human rights record there. But yeah, I'm not sure why I would challenge her on that. But again, somebody who clearly isn't a fan of hers, I suppose, or the JCPOA. Maybe that's the issue.
Yeah. So taking the other side, we have Surush Atai, who seems to be somewhat of a fan of Barbara's. He writes, "The people of Iran are the real victims of the sanctions. Thank you, Barbara, for at least helping to better the relationship between Iran and USA for all Iranians."
All right.
And well, I believe it is now time for the letter of the week.
Oh.
This one, we have a unique one this week. So Amir Khalaqi, he wrote a post on Instagram about Roqe, a whole post.
Wow.
So he dedicated this to
Who
Roqe.
is this Amir Khalaqi?
A very kind gentleman, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So he wrote,
Are the rumors true that it's actually Reza using a different name?
who knows? Maybe it's me, Jian. You never know. No, we're of course
You'll always be my Amir Khalaqi.
So dear
Probably
Amir,
Khalaqi, sorry. Probably Khalaqi.
Oh, there you
Khalaqi.
go.
Khalaqi, probably.
It's an
I'm
A
so
though,
sorry,
Khalaqi.
Shaya. I've disappointed you. Amir Khalaqi wrote this post composing, and let me read it out to you. So, if you're a podcast listener, as you should be, in brackets he has, do not miss Roqe. Jian Ghomeshi and his top team based in Toronto are producing English interviews with prominent people from the Iranian diaspora. They've hosted musicians, comedians, journalists, environmental activists, and many other great people. Recently, they produced a 4-part series to explore how Pink Floyd became an Iranian obsession. My favorite episode so far is the interview with Sara Safari, an Iranian woman who moved to the US to further her education in engineering and ended up climbing Everest. All the adventures and stories she has was quite inspiring.
Nice. That's
Very
lovely.
nice.
A good shout out to Sarah Safari there. Thank you, Amir Khalaqi. Khalaqi. What do you Shaya, tell us.
Okay. I would say Khalaqi, but since you said it's Khalaqi,
Yeah.
Khalaqi maybe. Or Khalaji.
Can we just say
or Khalaji?
Khalaji? Or maybe can we just say Khale Amir? Does that work? Anyway, put Amir on the payroll. Oh, wait, we don't have a payroll. That's really nice. Thank you so much, Amir. And sorry about the disagreements on your last name. Please send us maybe do a post phonetically explaining how your last name is said, and we'll read that next week. Keon June, I don't know what happened to the connection this week. We've had better connections in previous weeks, but we'll fix it for next week or for the next show for Thursday.
My apologies. Will do.
If anybody's still with us, we'll fix this for the next episode. Thank you, Keon. Bye-bye.
Bye, Kian.
We usually have a better. Last time we had a perfect Zoom connection with. What do you? The Shia, you sabotaged it, didn't you?
Honestly, it's a tech problem.
It's a tech problem.
It was the Democrats.
It was Democrats. They're all about business. Well, this is full time for Roqe today. Guess what? It's full time for Roqe today. Jian Ghomeshi and his top team, who can't get good sound together. For all things Roqe, please visit our website, roqemedia.com, including how you can support this program so we can put people on a payroll. Thanks in the meantime to the amazing team who put this show together. By the way, our website is roqemedia.com. Producer Susan, Thoughtful Nagin, Ponsa the Artist, The Fabulous Keon, Savvy Roham, Master Mohammed, Captain Reza Groovy Shaya, and Aghay Merdad. Thank you to all of you out there supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe on any or all of our platforms if you've not done so already. Find me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi. میزون باشید.